Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In the first story, we'll tell you how the biggest a-holes micromanage themselves out of business. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Sir, I just do what I'm told. Flat broke and with limited work experience, I moved to my new college town and landed a job doing security. It was a super small company ran by an extremely stern former cop. He was extremely formal and very conservative. I was basically walking sunshine at the time, so our personalities didn't exactly mesh. Despite his obvious disdain, he hired me anyways. Within a day, I was sent immediately to a medium-sized beverage factory. I hit the floor running. I knew a couple of the workers from my hometown and had just met a couple of the guys at a recent party, so things started off great. Couple of weeks in, there's a break-in by some kids in the back. No big deal, everything worked out. The beverage company's general manager came out and personally thanked me. Over the next few weeks, the general manager has me do a couple of things for him here and there, nothing special, just little odds and ends. Malicious compliance time. General manager comes to me outside and tells me, "Hey, I need you to tell your boss at the security guard company a few things. We need the night guard to stay an hour later for a week, and we need you guys to stop wearing the silly hats that go with your uniform. This isn't the Army." I laugh and tell GM, "You've met him, right? He won't want to hear any of this from me. He's going to call you." The GM shakes his head and says, "I don't want to talk to him. I want to talk to you." I relay the message to my boss, and he's furious. He tells me in no uncertain terms, "Are they going to tell me anything about anything?" He tells me, "Whatever they tell you, don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. You have the GM tell me. It's basic chain of command." So, of course, the next day I see the GM, and he now tells me about 4 other things that he needed me to do. I explain to him what the boss said about relaying any information. GM smiles and tells me, "Well, tell him that we probably will go with another company if he doesn't call me in 10 minutes exactly." I call the boss as instructed, and he's furious already when he answers the phone. "I told you, don't tell me anything. They'll call me. I don't run my company by you." I didn't tell the boss as instructed that he had to call the GM within 10 minutes. The boss calls the GM much later in the day and loses it. Tempers flared, and 2 weeks later, I'm working at the factory but under a new security company as the boss sold it before he lost his biggest client. And our second story. So let me tell you about a woman that demanded to be paid for getting a free ride because there was a girl with cancer in the car. Backstory. This happened when I was studying at a university and living with my parents. Our village is located roughly an hour drive from a big city where most of our neighborhood works, including my mom, her nice friend in the IT department, and the choosing beggar, all employed by the same firm. There's a train to the city in the neighboring village, but it's half an hour walk, so my mother would generally drive to work and I'd tag along whenever our schedules allowed it. Around 2 months before the story takes place, the CB realized she could ride to work and back home with my mom. And my mother, being a generous person she is, agreed to that, demanding no payment as it wasn't any major inconvenience for her, and she was aware that CB was doing low-salary job and had young kids at home. The nice IT friend, let's call her Anne, who was always taking the train home, asked my mother a few days beforehand if she and her daughter could ride home with her on Friday, as her daughter was going to be released from just a routine checkup at the hospital in the city. She also offered to take an early leave so that they'd be ready by the car, but my mom said they'd just go to the hospital together as it's only a 10-minute detour. Come Friday, and surprisingly, I finished my classes early and messaged my mom if I can tag along. My mom says yes, but at the same time explains quickly Anne's situation and that the car will be packed. No problem for me. 5 minutes to 5, I arrive at the parking lot and see the CB already waiting. This woman must never work till the end of the shift. She sees me and gets visibly annoyed, saying something along the lines of, "Oh, and now this car is going to become a public bus for annoying teenagers." I was in my 20s and rather quiet in the car. I pretend I heard nothing and just wait patiently. 10 minutes later, my mom arrives with Anne and we drive towards the hospital. The checkout must have been busy as we wait about 20 minutes. But it's fine with me and my mom. It's a special situation. However, the CB rants about waiting all the time, much to our annoyance. Anne finally shows, and we quickly realize that it was by no means just a checkup. Anne's daughter looks very frail and thin, face white, bald head covered with a scarf, barely holding up, clearly just released from chemotherapy. I immediately get off the front seat and go out to grab the daughter's luggage from Anne to place in the trunk and let her take the front, as I don't feel comfortable having her crammed up in the back. CB is a rather large woman. Not like that's anything bad, but there was hardly any room in the back with her and Anne in my mom's city car. Anne quietly thanks me, and we roll back home, in relative silence as the daughter fell asleep immediately. We go to Anne's home first, it's just on the way, and they start leaving quickly. Anne's daughter throws up the moment she wakes up and quickly starts apologizing. We say we don't mind, and there it starts. Anne takes out her wallet and gets a bill that had exchanged for around $60 and insists on paying my mom for both the ride and cleaning the car, which my mom quickly declines. However, at the same moment, the CB reaches for the money. For a moment, everything is silent, and then the conversation goes like this. CB: I'll be taking it, thanks. Me: On what grounds? CB: Well, we had to take this huge detour, and I'll be like 40 minutes late at home. Well, you'd be even later if you'd taken the train. It's none of your concern. I don't take trains home. I always ride this car, and I'm not just being late. This car has been ruined by Anne's daughter. It's not even your car, and we don't mind. I take it every day, so it's mine as well. P.S. It's my mom's car, and she decides what to do with it. Anyways, daughter puked in here close to my proximity. I'm surely entitled to some damages. Anne: No, it's right, I'm sorry. She grabs the $60, puts it in my mother's handbag, and proceeds to take another banknote, around $25, and hands it to CB, who quickly pockets the money. Me: Heck, Anne, you shouldn't have given her a thing. She takes a ride with my mom daily and pays us nothing. Anne: Oh, I thought she's paying for the fuel. As she should have. CB: It doesn't matter. I take this car every day, and now it's dirty. What if my kids catch what she's sick with? Daughter shouts in a very raspy voice, I have a brain tumor. It's not contagious. That somehow managed to shut the CB up. My mom got out, took the daughter's luggage, and walked Anne and her daughter home, slipping the banknote she was given into their mailbox on her way back. She says nothing and drives straight to CB's home. She'd normally leave her at the crossroad nearby, and speaks for the first time in a while. I was driving you because it wasn't inconvenient for me, but it just became a large inconvenience. This partnership is done. I don't care if you take the train from now on, get your own car, or just quit your job. I will not be driving you anywhere unless you or your kids are dying. The $25 you were given for no reason should be enough for a week's worth of train tickets anyways. So enjoy. This car is mine and mine only. So get out. Now. After that, I hardly saw the CB at all. Hopefully, she's never coming back into the picture, and my mom drives to work with Anne now, who, even if nobody asks her to, pays for the fuel. Anne's daughter is in remission now, so she's doing much better if you're curious. And our last story. Man gets his car crushed by not paying his repair bill. Not my story, but my father's. Took place in the early 2000s. He's a master mechanic who can literally work on any car, foreign or domestic. He's teaching me right now, and it's an honor to learn from him. He's always run his own independent repair shop almost as long as I can remember. And he told me this story recently that just seems perfect for this sub. So this guy comes in with a pretty nice Chrysler convertible to get his transmission fixed. He had to remove the transmission, disassemble, and rebuild it. Pretty long process, but it's no problem. After a day's work, he calls the customer up, says his car's ready, and reminds him of the agreed-upon price of about $1,200. The guy said he could only pay $600 then, and he'd have to get back to him on the rest. Now, this isn't out of the ordinary. Where we live, most people aren't exactly wealthy, and my dad's a nice guy. He single-handedly supported 4 kids and a wife, so we weren't exactly rich. It's not uncommon for people to pay in installments. He doesn't charge interest or fees or anything, just tries to do what's right. The guy pays half his bill, and with the promise of paying the remaining amount in a few weeks, he leaves with his car. About 2 months pass, however, and the guy hasn't paid, hasn't even contacted my dad about any issues or to say something like he lost his job or something. So my dad calls him up and asks when he thinks he'll be able to pay the rest of his bill, and I kid you not, this is how the convo went. Dad: "Hey, this is placeholder's name. I was just wondering when you'll be able to pay the rest of your bill." Guy: "Oh yeah, about that. I'm not paying it." Dad, surprised: "What? Is something wrong with the car? If something went wrong, I'll take care of it." No, car runs great. I'm just not going to pay you." "What? Why?" "Well, I have the car now, so I don't see any reason to pay you." They went back and forth a bit before my dad realized it was pointless and decided to enact some sweet, sweet revenge. He calls up a local towing company and gives them the guy's address, license plate, and car description, and tells them to tow the vehicle to the county recycling center. He then calls up the recycling center and says, "Hey, you're going to be getting a Chrysler convertible, license plate XXXXX from blank towing. When it gets there, I want you guys to crush it and recycle it." And so they do. Car was crushed and recycled. Next day, guy shows up to my dad's business, furious, and with the state patrol. My dad explains the entire story, and the cops tell the guy that technically the vehicle was moved, not stolen. The recycling center received recyclable goods and not stolen property, and now the car no longer exists, as it's been recycled, and thus was not a criminal matter, but a civil one. So the guy sues my dad, and once again my dad explains the entire story, and amazingly the judge says the same thing as the troopers and dismissed. It sounds almost unbelievable because it just seems so illegal, but if a judge rules in his favor, it's got to have some merit by a technicality or something. Granted, this was maybe 15 years ago, so the laws could have changed since, but damn, the guy gets his car crushed simply because he chose not to pay the remaining repair bill and wanted to take advantage of someone's kindness. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.